David vs. Goliath, Kingsman vs. CC, Schlepp vs. Roblox. Everyone loves a good underdog versus the bully story, but this one's far different than you might think. A brand new YouTube channel with 0 subscribers posted 2 videos, getting an absurd amount of views on both combined, and through basic journalism, started a chain reaction, which has resulted in the public image of one of the most established Hearts of Iron 4 mods, the Great War Redux, to be utterly destroyed. The story alone is an amazing one to tell, and if you want to see how it all unfolded for yourself, I recommend watching Errorlog's videos about it. While the dust has, at least hopefully, settled by now, I felt like I, the self-proclaimed dad of the HOI4 modding community, needed to sit down and have a talk not just with the Great War Redux lead developers, but Errorlog, the developers who worked on the project, and the HOI4 modding community as a whole. Because while the actions of the lead developers of TGWR are despicable, there's been one question that's been nagging me since this collapse had even begun. How is it that a channel with 0 subscribers had accomplished what other YouTube channels and the developers of the mod itself had failed to do? And how are we, as a community, going to grow from this now that it's all over? Before we get into the video, I feel like it's important to disclose the nature of my relationship with Errorlog. He first approached me as a completely new channel and wanted to make a TNO critique video. He asked me if he could use the visuals from my Atlanta video. I said yes, and gave him some notes on his script to make it more concise and less dramatic. As things have developed, we've gotten closer, and I would say that he's a friend of mine and the channel as a whole. So I will definitely have a bias towards Errorlog here, but despite my friendship with him, I have critiques about the arguments he made in his TNO video, as well as the general response that the community has had towards things like his interview with the head developer of TNO, Mango. In Errorlog's video and his comment section, people were voicing their frustrations about how, just like the title of the video suggests, that TNO hasn't released major content in 3 years. And while I would agree with this critique on the grounds of why change what wasn't broken, and why did you think it was broken, Mango's statement that a volunteer development team can't be held to the same standards as a video game company is 100% valid. Much like how I likened the mod to the ship of Theseus, the mod team is far different than it used to be. The lead developers who wanted to keep Atlanta left, and the developers who wanted to remove it remained. The resulting shift of direction should be expected. While it's disappointing that we may not get the same kind of content as we did before, it isn't their responsibility to keep things the same. Even in my Atlanta video, I point out that we're lucky to have an updated version of the mod that you can play today. If you've seen my Atlanta video, you're probably having extreme whiplash. That's because, while I dislike TNO's current direction, I don't have any beef with specific developers. Even if I still hold true to my statement of Atlanta being the soul of the New Order, my aim was to mostly end the use of "it was the heart and soul" meme that was being used to ridicule those who liked the old content of TNO. Besides, now that TNO Requiem exists and is preserving and refurbishing old content like the South African War, we can now both have the old, refreshed content and the new direction for us to enjoy. The best of both worlds. Because of this, I hope that the TNO and TNOR teams can get along, and I'm excited to see what the TNO development team makes. When it comes out, hopefully, maybe. So despite the drama, I'm still on TNO's Discord, and when I chime in every once in a while, we have a little fun with it, and also dunk on bad Redux projects like TNO Rises Again. From what I understand, Errorlog has also had an ultimately positive experience with the TNO development team, and while there are disagreements between both parties, they would still respect each other as individuals, as we all could separate the art from the artists. However, that could not have been the case when Errorlog made his second video, focusing not only on the Great War Redux's poor direction, but also their immoral leadership. The Great War Redux video was meant to be another case of looking at a mod who fell to the pitfall of pursuing realism over plausibility, or as Errorlog calls it, revisionism. The perfect candidate would be TGWR, who deliberately removed alternate history content and used realism as a justification and deflection from critique. The difference between TNO and TGWR is that one lead developer was so authoritarian that 5,000 people had been banned, but was also openly racist anti-Semitic, and overall such a vile person that it would have been a journalistic injustice not to highlight it. So it should be no surprise that when he simply alluded to the possibility of making a video about them, he was preemptively banned from the server. And while I could go into more detail about the injustice and the misuse of developers under their leadership, I don't want to add to the drama. The reason why I'm bringing this all up is to highlight the absurdity of the situation. A developer team was subjected to significant abuse by a few bad actors, but despite this, the mod, for a while, was highly regarded until the consequences of a change of leadership were seen after new content came out. But how could a developer team be subjected to that much abuse and tolerate it, staying on the development team despite it all? Unfortunately, allegations of abuse in development teams is not something new to the modding community. It's likely that this is a symptom of trying to get a product out the door faster than it should have, rather than deliberately malicious. Unlike TGWR, while racial, sexual, and ableist slurs were frequently pelted at hardworking developers, there's an allegory for political movements that relates to pendulums. They naturally swing from one side to another at a consistent rhythm. But once somebody holds back the pendulum from swinging, it moves so far to the other direction that it breaks. My theory is that, in normal circumstances, while these sort of conflicts are treated internally, the failure for internal leadership to properly address the concerns of the developers, and nowhere for the developers to turn to be properly respected, had eventually boiled over to the point that one video was enough to loosen the grip of the pendulum and cause the whole thing to fall apart. But why was there nowhere for them to turn to? Drama early in the Hearts of Iron 4 modding scene was really cringe at times, so naturally it just became a rule in most servers to just completely ignore drama under any circumstances. And in many ways, I can see why this is the case. By avoiding drama, you get to avoid seeing Airlog's TNO video, as well as the community response, which at times can be really petty. But this policy is flawed, as by branding Airlog just a drama channel, you miss out on the journalistic benefit of his TGWR videos. By documenting the misdeeds of the mod's leadership and broadcasting the stories of their victims, the bullies can't hide anymore, and hopefully, they won't be able to negatively impact our community again. If this video wasn't made, the cycle of abuse would have continued, and those who weren't conscious of their mistreatment would have believed that they deserved being called mentally deficient, submitting to the abuse for the sake of being something greater, being a developer on the largest World War I mod in Hearts of Iron 4. But because one person stood up, said something, but said it too emotionally, it's a drama channel and should be ignored? Why is that our policy? In what world is that fair? What are developers supposed to do when these things happen and nobody's willing to hear them? This policy of indifference is flawed. It helps people stay focused and in harmony in the greater community, but at the expense of, the people actually making the mods. Developers who left the TGWR team reported that some of them don't even want to work on a HOI4 mod ever again because the experience was too terrible. I've been racking my head around to try to find a solution, but most of these would compromise the Wild West that is HOI4 modding. The only solution I've come up with is to help make sure people learn to be self-assured and confident enough to assert themselves when they're mistreated, as well as have the confidence to be able to speak out when they're abused. There isn't currently a place for mistreated developers to go to, because if they go to any major Hearts of Iron 4 modding social media platform like a Discord server or a subreddit, they're banned for spreading drama. So it's no wonder to me why Airlog was so successful. In just 2 videos, he was able to expose abuse on a server-wide scale. My hope is that he'll use his platform to highlight the injustices of those who truly deserve the scrutiny. Things like the Great War Redux's abusive leadership problem, not TNO taking too long to make new content. And hopefully, he won't be needed again. My hope with this video is that we as a community take a moment to reflect on how best we can support our modders in situations like this, so we can all get back to what we enjoy most: performing sick encirclements on our adversaries. While I can't change the greater community, I'll do my own part by opening the previously exclusive LoreSaw pact to the public. What started off as just a meme is now turning into an organization meant not only to mutually benefit through shared assets, but also ensure that none of the developers of our member mods are facing abuse from their superiors. I've already invited Airlog to the server, so we can consider how best to ensure the security of developers without compromising the freedom of expression that comes with Hearts of Iron 4 modding. I'm happy to say that the largest successor of this whole TGWR fiasco, the War to End All, is already a member, and yours can be too if you apply through this Google form. If we keep ignoring instances like this, and not listening to people who want to make a change, I fear that something like this could happen at a larger scale in the HOI4 community if nothing else is done. That's why I humbly request that Paradox Interactive take note of the situation and act accordingly. Thank you very much for watching. Don't be afraid to stand up to bullies online or in real life, and I hope you have a good day.